Namaste, everyone. Today we're going to look at the invisible aspects of yoga, the breath, the bandhas, and the drishti that make up this internal part of the practice that we never quite see. The external visible part, which is the postures, is what we mostly focus on. But by looking at this from the very beginning, we can start to develop a practice that's far more internalized and meditative. The Ashtanga Vinyasa system is like a prayer bead. Now, when you think about it, each of the postures represent a bead in this prayer beads, in this mala, and the string or the thing that you use to really bring the beads together are these fundamental techniques of the breath, these invisible parts that you don't quite see when you see the chain, or the internal energetic seals, these bandhas, and certain gazing points that help to direct the awareness inside. And together it forms this beautiful, meditative, powerful technique so that when you do this, your mind just slips into a state of freedom and ease, and you can experience these benefits very early on if you master these techniques. The first of these techniques is called Ujjayi breath. It means victorious breathing, and the word pranayama consists of two words, prana meaning life force energy and ayama meaning to extend or stretch. When we practice Ujjayi pranayama, we learn to extend or lengthen our life force energy so we live longer, have more energy for the tasks that we do in our day-to-day lives, and we learn to embody this sense of power and victoriousness as we practice. The purpose of Ujjayi pranayama also has many physiological and mental benefits that we'll get into, but what we need to know for now is that it involves just a simple technique of constricting the base of the throat. Now that we know what it is, let's see how to actually practice it. This is where a lot of the confusion lies, so take a few moments to just visualize this, practice it, and it could take a long time before you can do this consistently. So just be patient with yourself. If you can only hear it on the exhalation, that's fine. Slowly you'll be able to hear it on both the inhalation and the exhalation. Anatomically, there consists this flap or this lid on top of the throat, which is called the epiglottis. So when we're drinking water, for example, this lid gets closed, but when we're breathing in our day-to-day lives, it remains open and relaxed. When we're practicing Ujjayi pranayama, we want to keep it slightly open, and this gentle constriction creates this hissing sound. This hissing sound that you can hear is really what matters in our practice, because this is what creates power and force when we're drawing the breath up, not from just the base of the throat, but from as low as you can possibly feel. At least from the chest is a good starting point, but we're trying to pull the breath up against a pressure and slowly listen to that sound that's produced. It doesn't matter how loud the sound is. What matters is that you're visualizing this gentle opening and constantly staying in that point of gentle constriction of this lid of the throat, and without straining the vocal cords, without creating any unnecessary tension in the body, but you're pulling the breath through this constriction, through this gentle opening. According to the yogic sciences, toxins accumulate in parts of our bodies where there's very little oxygen. So by really stretching and strengthening systematically, we can use this breathing to supply oxygen to all those parts that are asleep. And so through this model, we realize that sickness actually comes because of accumulated toxins. And by breathing in this way, we remove the toxins on various levels. Starting off with just the mental toxins, so our negative attitudes, our just stuckness in ourselves. The physical toxins through just sweat and actually being able to sweat through the practice. The environmental toxins through working with our lungs and breathing much deeper. And systematically over time, we start to realize that by inhaling deeply, we are supplying oxygen to all those parts that are asleep, that are not receiving enough oxygen. By exhaling correctly, we are removing all these toxins from our body and slowly over time returning our body to its original natural state of health. Personally, I find that practicing Ujjayi breath helps me with my mental clarity. When my breath is clear, my mind is clear, and it creates this sense of mental stillness just because of its ability to bring my mind back to the present moment. And when I link them with the postures, when I'm able to find this mind-breath connection, I'm no longer in my thinking head thinking of all the things that I have to do. I'm much more in my physical body, experiencing the moment as it arises. Having just seen how we can use the Ujjayi breath to control and direct this life force energy, let's now take a look at bandhas, or these energetic bonds. The word itself means bond, and we're bonding the breath, the awareness, and our movement together to create this seamless meditative experience. And so we connect the physical practice to the energetic aspect. If you're just starting out on your yoga journey, it can be quite challenging to locate these locks and understand them. So be patient with yourself, and if at first it doesn't feel easy to locate them, don't worry about it. You can always come back to it. But remember that this is what distinguishes yoga from gymnastics or any other form of physical fitness. It's this energy preservation, this ability to seal and not leak out energy, this ability to use these fundamental techniques to create and conserve your energy rather than just utilize it for physical exertion. To keep it really simple, we're going to focus on just one of these locks today, called the Uddiyana Bandha. The Uddiyana Bandha is also known as the flying up lock, and it involves contracting the transverse abdominals, or the muscles just underneath the navel. We're going to imagine pulling the muscles underneath the navel inwards and then finding this upward lift, so that we visualize this bird of the prana flying through the center channel called the sushumna. So imagine just pulling your belly button inwards and then allowing the prana, or the breath, to fly up like a bird all the way as high as you can feel. But keep in mind that it comes with time. It'll be easier on the inhalation at first and more hard on the exhalation. But in the context of this practice, we're going to try and keep it in and up for as long as we can throughout the practice. So far, we looked at how to breathe correctly and how to use the internal energetic locks. Now let's take a look at how to use our drishtis, or our focal points of awareness. The word drishti means gazing point, and there are 9 different gazing points within this system to help us focus our visual sense. According to the ancient scriptures, the Upanishads, the mind kind of serves us with this fuel from the external world through the visual sense. So by cutting off, or just by withdrawing this fuel, the mind can then focus on the source and become way more meditative and eventually reach the goal of yoga. So when we can see that our eyes are wandering during the practice, it actually serves as feedback for whether or not we're concentrated on the mat. But for now, just to remember that where the eyes go, focus and flow follow. So just remember to really use the visual sense to your advantage without allowing it to wander off anywhere. So in this class, we looked at the fundamental techniques that you're going to use throughout the rest of the practice. Don't worry about getting it all right at once. We're going to implement it through the classes. But just to know that having these techniques in your back of your mind is important to ensure that your practice is smooth and steady from the very beginning. So just to recap, we looked at the breath, we looked at the bandhas, the energetic locks, and we looked at the drishti, or the gazing points. These 3 fundamental techniques work together to create this beautiful, seamless practice. So take your time and have low expectations of yourself of getting it all right and all done in one class. We're going to learn how to use them throughout the rest of the practice. So stay patient, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next